Please forgive me, I'm still shaking the rust off. This was supposed to be posted yesterday, but for some reason it did not get up, and I have to re-record it. Press your beans, roll your leaf. Get ready to hear a verbal smackdown. Yeah, I don't really like that intro. I'll work on it a little bit. Maybe press your beans, roll your leaf. Get ready to hear a wise word. A wise whisper in your ear. Yeah, something more alliterative. Let me ask you, dear listener, what comes to mind when you think of the word politics? I originally was going to start this video with using Adventuring Philosopher's definition, but I think instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you go ahead and go over to her channel. Look up her video, Everyone Does Politics. It's a short little reel of like 8 seconds. Come back when you're done. Okay, you back? Excellent. So, I'm going to read you the etymology of the word politics. Now, etymology of words is important because within the etymology is the core seed of the definition of said word. And the etymology for politics, according to Google AI, is the word politics traces back to the ancient Greek word polis, meaning city or city-state. It evolved through the Greek politikos, of citizens, and to the Latin politicus, and Middle French politique. The specific English plural form emerged in the mid-15th century from the title of Aristotle's foundational treatise Politica, which translates to affairs of the cities. Ultimately, the word captures the essence of managing and organizing communal life within the city-state. That's kind of always what I thought it meant. That basically it was the first foundational word to describe how governments and states and citizens interact with one another. Politics. Well, if you listen to her definition, and I'm really trying not to be acerbic or dismissive or demeaning of her, but she makes it so hard. That is hard not to indulge. But her definition of do you do politics? Do you make decisions in groups? Then you do politics. Is incredibly faulty. Now, you remember when I said I was going through a malaise and I wasn't really posting anymore, but I was occasionally commenting on things? This was one of those things I was commenting upon. And so I sent her a comment, which you can see here in this slide. These are the comments from her thread. I have to do it this way because she has threatened to remove them. Give you a second to read it before we go on. Actually, why don't we do this, rather than me pause all the time like that, why don't we just say, pause when you're done reading, you click back on the video. So pause when you're done reading, click back on. All right, you back? Excellent. So, as you can tell, I was not very pleased with her definition of politics. And my first response to her is polite. I don't care what she says, it is. It's challenging, but it's not aggressive. Well, she sends a comment back, as you can see. And then when I respond to that comment, she does this. Now, I feel it's important to double down on this, so I'm going to read that comment to you. Damn fucking men, shut up. You cannot even accept a Webster fucking definition. You fucking men always have to argue or think you know better. You are fucking lame. And as you can see from my response, and yet you haven't disproven my point, now call me all the invectives you like. It doesn't make your hysterics proof that you are correct. I'm sure someone will interpret that as misogyny, but who threw the misandry first? She did. She is claiming, and she will continue to claim throughout the comments, that anyone disagreeing with her is somehow morally inferior to her. By the way, this is a common thread through all her videos. Now, in the next slide, you see she doubles down on her definition that two more people making decisions is politics. To which I point out why I have a problem. Let me read my comment to you. You are refusing to acknowledge that one person enforcing their will is also politics, such as seen in monarchies, theocracies, despotisms, tyrannies, and fascist regimes, all of which are still present with us in the modern era. The definition you are using is lacking. Her definition of groups making decisions completely ignores the historical reality that that's not how the bulk of human history has gone down. Right? The monarch, wielding that scepter of absolute authority, had no problem using it to bash the skull of anyone who disagreed with him. The church, wielding that scepter of papal authority, had no problem wielding it to smash out heresy. And it's not just a Western phenomenon. Have you seen what happens in the Confucian courts of China? How about Sengoku, Japan? What about, the Assyrians? How they had a penchant for slaughtering everyone who disagreed with them at the directive of one all-powerful king. Let's even go modern history. Fascist regimes come to mind. How much politics, of her definition, people are together making decisions as a group, do you think is involved in Benito Mussolini's fascism? Do you think Pol Pot took an opinion poll before he made a decision? You think Stalin cared about other people's feelings? This is why her definition is lacking, and she refuses to see it. And as you will see in these slides of her continued responses, she just keeps going down on it. Now, I want to take also a moment to say that she got her definition supposedly from Webster's, Merriam-Webster's dictionary. When I challenge her that her definition is just a conversation, and then I ask her after that, which dictionary, she says, oh my God, all of them. Actually, all of them, my God. Are people really so lazy they can't do a simple search? Good God, we really are illiterate now. With no punctuation, I have to add and misspellings. I don't normally hold that against people because I understand a lot of the times we're responding on cell phones without a spell or grammar check, and we're also in the hurry of the moment. But if you claim you got something from a source, take a look here at slide 5. This is a screenshot of Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, which is where I quoted politics to her. And you will see further screenshots detailing Merriam-Webster's definition in slide 6 here, slide 7 here, slide 8 here, slide 9 here. Here in slide 10, you can see that we are once again dealing with comments between the two of us. She actually calls me, opening up after seeing this from Merriam-Webster, a liar. The one I posted in the comments did so. Webster's has several, or you lie. I do find it freaking interesting that you tell me what I can post and keep on my own channel when you don't create any content of your own. Well, obviously you did look at my channel. I still have some old videos up. Yes, I do. I will be as snippy as I want. I can even be a bitch. It's my channel. So how about you fuck off now and go away? Oh, foe. There's an old saying. Don't feed the trolls. My response, laughs. Please do cite where I told you where and what you can or can't post, because as you can see, I never did that. Once again, this is her misandry coming out. Now here's where something happens where, because we're having this conversation, I've never met this person, I misunderstood what she meant. She says, you should be careful what videos you publicly post. I saw your channel. Now remember earlier she said that I didn't make any content of my own, but now here obviously I have content because she's criticizing something I posted. And I had no idea what she was talking about because my mind doesn't work this way. That's why you see my response below about, are you making a threat at me? Because the first thing I thought was that she's making a threat to report me to YouTube for a violation of terms of service or something like that. No, It's actually more terrible than that. We'll get to what that is in a second. The next slide was a different part of the comment thread. And one of the things I don't like about YouTube now is they don't timestamp when a comment is made. They just do as far as like days ago. I prefer having an exact hour and an exact date. But for some reason, that's not what we're doing over at YouTube. This commentator, Walmart Man, or Walmart Ramen, says love bombing is an attempt to influence a person by demonstrations of attention and affection. Psychologists have identified love bombing as a possible part of the cycle. He basically goes to define what love bombing is. And for some reason, he's talking about it in this scope of politics. I'm not sure quite what he was getting to here, unless maybe he was trying to draw some kind of analogy about how political parties try to recruit candidates or recruit members. Hey, look, we think like you. That kind of like a love bombing type attempt. She replies, it's still politics. Now, going by the earlier definition of politics from the etymology and from Merriam-Webster, that's incorrect. So I said back to her a little snarkily, you're one of those people who believes everyone has their own truth, aren't you? I have discovered that most of the people who are in love of the left-wing side of American politics seem to have a problem with the concept of objectivism. And I mean it in the Ayn Rand sense, right? Things just are. A equals A. There is capital truth with a capital T that exists independently of your opinions or your wants or goals. Faux does not seem to have that at all. We'll go into that in some other videos she posted, such as about the chattel slavery thing, which we're going to do next. So you can see here in this conversation, we're going back and forth still. She's still doubling down on any time two more people make decisions in politics, read the definition, which apparently she hasn't bothered to read the definition of. You'll see some spelling errors here in my post back because I am still so mad. In fact, that's a repeat. Why is that? Huh. Again, I apologize. I'm rusty. Apparently, I repeated. This was a different part of the conversation. I don't know why it's showing up like that in the slide. I'm going to have to go back and research that. But you see here when we're responding to her accusation that I was a liar and that every dictionary uses her definition and I was taking umbrage with that, I responded, no, not every dictionary. I pointed out the definition you used was limited. But of course, anyone who disagrees with you and your point must be, how did you characterize it again? Oh yeah, fucking men. Does your misandry keep you warm at night? You tell I took some personal umbrage to that. And then give her an example of some of the problems I see also. I give the example of a pair of muggers attacking somebody on the street. By her definition, that's politics, because the muggers and the victim are now all part of a group. Doesn't matter the victim didn't wish to be part of the group, they're now part of the group. And she responds, yes, the mugger decided through politics to rob you. So clearly she is confusing politics with negotiation and conversation. And that, frankly, is just a bit, well, you know, stupid is the word I want to use. In this slide, you see she's once again taking umbrage of me. You want to cry foul, blah, 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 blah. And she calls me a Trumper. Now, clearly, she did not look at my channel very closely. No, I am not a Donald Trump supporter. No, I'm also not, during the last election, a Joseph Biden, Kamala Harris supporter. I'm independent. I'm in that weird segment of the American population, only a third of us, according to the recent polls, that does not trust either one of the two big parties. Gee, I can't imagine why, given their awesome and eloquent and nothing but forthright performances of late. So that was sarcasm. I realize you may not realize what it is. Now, again, I'm sorry I'm rusty, but on here, this comment, I seem to remember it not reading your daughter there. I seem to remember her putting it there as granddaughters. It's possible she went back and changed it because you look, it does say it's edited. But I'm just bringing it up because that's how I remember it. That may not be the case. Note, Fo, also, when I'm not sure of something, I say so, unlike yourself. And yeah, there's some personal animosity between me and Fo now, and it's going to remain there. We're going to get to why here at the end. She's basically trying to tell me, not only in this comment about how she's going to threaten to block me and delete all my comments, she's telling me what to do on my channel. And then when she realized that these are my daughters, you see her comment below. That's why I seem to remember the first comment being granddaughters, not daughter. Wow, you're an old man to have such a young baby. I feel sorry for her. Say what the fuck, wench? Okay. Okay. Yes, I had my children later in life because I spent the earlier part of my life surviving one attempt after another to ruin me or murder me. So fuck you, bitch. Second, what the hell gives you the right to criticize someone else when they have their children? Especially since, and you're about to see it in the response to her, in her videos, she at one point talks about how her son went to jail. Now, yeah, you can end up in jail for many reasons. Bad traffic stop, maybe you were at the wrong place at the wrong time, didn't actually have anything to do with it. But I'm going to go off on a limb and assume that her son actually did something to justly get arrested based on her behavior. So, who the hell is she to tell me how to raise my kids when she's clearly not a perfect parent herself? By the way, no parent's a perfect parent. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there. You have to show up. You have to love them. You'll notice here after it I say, I can't help but notice many of your videos have comments that are disabled. Is that cowardice or are you unable to take a contrary view? Now again, this is where we get into something I'm not quite sure of. When I was trying to comment on her videos, I could not do so. It is possible she may have already blocked me from commenting, or maybe we were having a glitch. At that particular time, if I remember the days correctly, I was in an area that had spotty internet. Perhaps there wasn't a secure connection. Perhaps my data walls weren't letting it in. She responds, comments are available in all of her videos. I asked her just to double check that. That seems pretty polite. But then she doubles down on the parenting thing and says she will speak for my daughter who cannot. Hear the moral indignation? Hear the misandry? Now the video in question is a video in which I and my two daughters were sitting together on the floor. And we had a lot to celebrate that day because a medical condition that one of the eldest one suffers from, she'd just been cleared from. So we were on cloud 9. We were happy as kites, as you can imagine. And I'm not going to let her take that away from me. So you see the ending comment here in the slides is me going after her for her parenting of her son who ended up in jail. I feel it was justified since she opened that can of worms first. Just like my tone and my responses to her was justified because she started the aggression first. She started the slurring first. And why am I explaining this all to you, the viewer, who doesn't know either of us? I do it because the rest of this series, particularly with Foe, is going to have a certain tone that lacks from my others. In Bourbon and Blues, back when I was doing Bourbon and Blues, in Coffee and Cigarettes, Semaine Fantastique, I didn't get aggressive at all. There was no one I used sarcasm on. There was no one I used any ad hom attacks against. I didn't do any of that. Because I noticed this phenomenon that I called sarcasters, where people that were getting big on YouTube at the time and other social media were only popular because how they could tear someone else down, and they weren't really saying anything that productive. I decided I didn't want to do that. But as I've come out of this malaise, and Foe, we have you to thank for that. I can see I was committing a grave error. I was committing the error of turning the other cheek verbally. If you're not familiar, there's a very popular passage in Christianity about if a man striketh your cheek, present him the other. And the idea here is that you don't return violence with violence. Well, not to be critical of the Nazarene, but it's been my experience that when you're trying to de-escalate, it really only works with people who didn't want to throw the punch to begin with. And sadly, most of those people aren't the ones that would throw the punch. Now, are they? No, usually after fists fly, after insults are hurled, it's too late. You want to de-escalate things before that happens. I tried with her. It didn't work. So, Now it's on. Kelly. And I feel justified using her first name because if you read through the comments threads, she used mine first without permission. Kelly, you may rue your decision to mock me and berate me. With any luck, I will make you as infamous as Boogie or Destiny or Hassan. Can't say that I feel anything bad about it because at this point I feel it's deserved. You see, I get the emotional gist of your video, Kelly. I get that the idea was you wanted more people to be discussing politics. The problem is I can also get the unspoken judgment on the tail end of that you want them to be doing it your way, which you've proven through all your responses to me and me challenging you. Because in a real conversation, particularly a political one, when we're arguing about are we going to spend funds on this, are we going to pass this bill, etc., dissent and arguing contrary opinions have to be welcomed. They're part of the process. And I don't think you understand that. I think, like most progressive liberals that I have met, you're secretly a fascist. You want everyone to agree with you, and you don't mind using the force of the state to make it happen if they don't. And we're going to tear apart your videos now, one by one. The next one we're starting on is the one where you're talking about slavery, where you made the claim, and you meant it, that only in America do we have any records of black people being enslaved. Which completely ignores things like the Barbary Coast, the entire history of Islam, how many African tribes went to war and sold the captives into slavery to the people that showed up. This is going to be a fun ride.